Well, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and at the age of 9 years old, my mother left. My mother left, and she didn't come back. And so my stepfather took me to juvenile detention, where I stayed there, and I was in probably about six foster homes across that period of time. The last foster home I was in, the two of my foster brothers, they were in organized crime, and so they introduced me to some of that as a young kid. And then eventually I fought that. I actually wanted to be a police officer. I actually wanted to work in law enforcement, and I became a security guard. But it wasn't making me much money, and these foster brothers kept coming around, and they seen that I was courageous, that I wasn't afraid, that I had no fear. And they thought you'd make a good part to be a part of the Black Mafia, that like you would be a good candidate. And so they caught me at a time where I felt like really discouraged. As a security guard, I didn't have much money, and I still really didn't have that family connection. And they said, come on, be a part of this family.
All right, hold on, hold on. There's just so much there right from the start, right? So what happened to your mom?
Well, my mom, she was, I guess, not in a very good relationship. She decided she wanted to leave. During that time, though, she did decide to come back and get me, but I was in the system. And
Oh,
and I think once they got you in the system at that time as a person of color, they kind of kept you in that system because it makes money for the system. You know,
so she left. How old were you? And you said,
I was 9 years old.
okay, and then your dad put you in foster care. Or
My stepfather
okay,
left me, took me to juvenile detention
okay,
at 9, and my little brother, which was his son, he was 5 at the time. It was right before the 4th of July, so it was about the 1st of July. We had just got our fireworks. It's called a sack of fireworks then. You didn't get a whole bunch, you just got a little sack. And I gave my sack to him, and that was the last time I seen him until about 40 years later. And I got reconnected with my mom 3 years ago, and now I take care of her. She's got dementia, but I'm
yeah,
so happy to have her in my life.
okay. And you resisted. It sounds like throughout your teenage years, yeah, to maybe join a gang or do something to steal or do something like that, and you kind of stayed on the straight and narrow, and then got a job. Is that true?
I wish I could say that. I tried to start my own little gangs. Like I had the Devil's Angels. I had a little bike club. We go out late at night, and I teach you guys how to hold the back wheel so it didn't make noise. Keep your bike on the porch. Hold the back wheel till we get a block down, and we go in places and just steal stuff. And so I wasn't really no. I was,
This was like
but
teenage years.
yeah, it's my
Yeah.
young years, like 11, 12.
Okay.
On and on. I would do stuff like that. But one thing that happened to me, I stole a bike from. We used to drive to the white neighborhoods where the bikes were nice, you know, and I stole a bike from a family. They chased me and caught me, and in the middle of that, it was a baseball field, and these white families were playing baseball, and somebody screamed, "Get that nigga!" And they all were coming after me because somebody said he stole a bike, and they were all coming at me to beat me. And the white guy said, "No, I got him." He took me back, gave me my broken bike, he fixed it, and took me back home, dropped me off at my house, and said, "Don't ever steal a bike again." That was the last bike I ever stole. And
This was like 1960s Kansas City.
yeah,
Or?
yeah, Kansas City, back in the '60s. And so you know, being introduced to the Black Mafia, I learned how to shoot. I learned how to do collections. I learned how to sell cocaine and heroin. I learned how to deliver and all that stuff and shipments and fly out across the country and do all that. But in the midst of all that, I kept realizing that, am I doing what God called me to do? And the answer kept being no.
So when you were a security guard, just to go back a little bit, you were just kind of scraping by. So when they invited you to join, they probably tried a few times to get you to join. You finally relented and said, okay, I'll do organized crime.
Yeah, so the one thing that made me make that decision, in Kansas City, they're big on race cars and racetracks, and I was security at a racetrack, but it was all white folks, right? And I was trying to tell them what to do. I had a gun, you know, and legally, because, but they were saying a lot of racial slurs. And I was just fed up. I just got the N word. I got called that so many times, and I wasn't used to it because I'm used to in Kansas City. I was used to being in a neighborhood where you didn't get called that unless we were just kidding with each other. But I mean, they were really making me mad. I wanted to shoot up some people, right? But I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. And my foster brother came, he picked me up. James Gibson, that's his name. He came to pick me up, and he just said to me, "You know what? You don't have to do this. Like you got what it takes, man. You can do something different." And I finally gave in and said, "You know what? You're right." And I threw my uniform away, and I kept my gun.
And that was like in the 70s by now, or?
Yep, that was in the 70s. And so then I got started. And
Okay.
my first job was to take, my first job in the Black Mafia was to take fives and tens and make them hundreds. So I'd have big bags of $5 bills and $10 bills and $20 bills. And my first gig was to go from bank to bank
Oh, wow.
to
Just
laundry money.
changing out money.
Change out money. That was my first gig. And then it went on and on until I learned the whole business and learned all of that. And, I can say to the day that a lot of that stuff I learned has been beneficial in terms of running a nonprofit, right? In terms of running a business, in terms of taking care of business. But the good part about it is at the end of the night now, I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
I can sleep well knowing that I'm doing the right thing. And that transformation of how I even got from the Black Mafia to nonprofit is a whole nother story.
Was that the name of the gang, Black Mafia? Is that the name
No,
of it?
no, it's like, there's a Mexican mafia.
Yeah.
There's a, Irish mafia. There's a German mafia. This was the Black Mafia.
Of Kansas City?
African-Americans,
Or
yeah.
was it like nationwide?
Kansas City.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how that stuff's organized.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't want to know.
are there chapters?
They're just different cities. Everybody's, the Black Mafia is just, they're led by African Americans.
Yeah. Are they still around? Is that still a thing?
They're still around, yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are still alive.
And they exist like by doing the things that aren't legal, right? That's where the money comes from, because that's where the profit is.
Prostitution,
Yeah.
theft, drugs, gambling. I mean, they buy properties, they do businesses, they do everything.
What would you do for them?
Well, my job was collections. Like, my job was to go to people that owed money and collect. My job was also to pick up large amounts of heroin and cocaine in New York or L.A. or wherever the shipment was. And then my other job was to deliver and collections and delivery. So they had somebody else. If somebody didn't pay or they owed money, there was, Bruno did his thing. I just they don't want to pay, man. So that was their job. Everybody had a job. That was my job. So my job was, like in sales, like what you need, we got it, I got you. And also it was my job since I was the youngest to maintain and hold all the weapons and make sure that, they were where they're supposed to be and that kind of a thing. There was a lot of trust.
Yeah.
And I also realized if anything ever happened, that I would have to take the hit for whatever happened. Like, I knew that early on that I signed up for this. So if I get caught, then I get caught. There's no dropping names. It's just on me. And that's part of the deal, which is different now. People get caught and they tell everything.
So for the 70s and 80s, you were in the Black Mafia?
Yeah, I was in organized crime.
You lasted that long? That's a long time, no?
Yeah.
So I would guess most people wouldn't.
I didn't think I'd live. I never thought I'd live this long. I never expected to live this long. I'm 64 now. I never expected to live this long. I always thought that, when I became 25, I asked God, what am I still doing here? I asked God, why am I still alive, man? I'm not supposed to be alive. I'm not even supposed to be here. What am I still doing here? And so the other piece, I don't want to miss a piece in there, is that I went on the run. I went on the run, and I had to go on the run for a lot of different reasons. But I went on the run, and then I changed my identity and did all that stuff. But while on the run, I was in Oklahoma City, and I started to go to church. And I went to church, and the apartment building I was staying in was full of crime. It was infested with, everybody hated each other, fights all the time. And I asked the management team, could I do something to change this? And they said, yeah, you sure can, whatever, we don't care. And I started getting the kids together first. The kids love on each other. I did games and barbecues with the kids. Then I brought the families together. And then I went to the payphone. I was like, man, you guys love each other. This is great. Let me get on the payphone and see if I can come back to Minnesota or go back to Kansas City. Let me see if any of these police are still looking for me. And called the phone, and I kept calling on this payphone, and they kept, we don't have anything for you. You're good. So I got a Greyhound bus.
You were seeing if there was warrants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got a Greyhound bus, and I told everybody in the complex that I was leaving and I was going to go back to Minnesota.
Why were you in Minnesota? You said back to Minnesota, so you'd been
Yeah.
here once before?
I'd been here, and I was a DJ at the time. I had a show called Late Night Love with VJ the DJ, and me and Chaz Millionaire had this show together. And it was a very popular show, but there was a phone call that I got from some authorities, right, that said, we're coming to get you. And I was like, you got to catch me. So then I left, right? So the thing was...
Were you doing the same thing up here at the first time you were up here? The drugs and things like that?
Well, I came up here from Kansas City to get away from all that.
Yeah.
But that was during when the Cubans were coming up here, and there's a lot of people that didn't know what to do with all this cocaine that was here. Well, remember, I come from Kansas City, and I already knew how to do all this stuff, and I had all this wisdom, but I came here to get away from it. And I had met a young lady that said, if you know, at the time I was just selling a little weed, and I was just kind of, you know, doing my thing, but all these people kept coming up to me, man, show us what to do with this cocaine. And I was like, man, I'm not trying to do that no more. But once I started doing it, well, here's what really happened, to be honest with you. So the girlfriend said, don't deal drugs and we can be together. I said, fine. But then she got her income tax, and it's like $1,600. And I asked for $20, and she said, no. I was like, well, why am I asking you for money when I know how to hustle? I got all this wisdom about the streets. And I just made phone calls and told everybody, it's on, let's get busy.
Oh.
Like, we're going to work. And I got the cocaine, I got the heroin, I got everything, and I start moving. And I had wads like that in my pocket. I didn't have to ask for nothing. And that was probably the worst thing I did, because I got my own apartment, I did all that, and SWAT team came in and kicked my door in, and all kind of stuff happened. I got beat up by the SWAT team and all that, and then I eventually left again, right? And so, you know, one of the things is that while I was at this church in Oklahoma City,
Mm-hmm.
and this whole family that was turning their lives around, because I got on the Greyhound bus to come back here, and when I got to Greyhound, all those families were at the bus station, and they had gifts, and they said to me, you changed our lives. And I thought to myself, I know what I am now. I'm not a drug dealer, I'm a hope dealer. And that God put me here to bring hope to everything I touch. God gave me a second chance.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest with you, when a SWAT team came in and broke the door down, there was a kilo of cocaine that they set me on top of it. And they tried to get me to tell me where it was, and I was sitting on it. And so when I got home, it was still there, and I called the guy that I got it from and gave it back. I says, I can't do this no more.
So they missed it.
They missed it, and thank God, because I wouldn't be here sitting here talking to you today. I'll still be just getting out probably maybe in a few years. So I got blessed. I really got blessed.